So, hello and welcome along to another edition of Isolation Interviews for Hospital Radio Reading and for my YouTube channel. And I'm super excited that my guest today is a fantastic actor in the form of Morgan Baker. Thank you, Morgan, for joining me. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you today?
I'm really good. And it's a pleasure to have you on the show. Obviously, people will remember you from your time on Neighbours, which we will talk about in just a moment. But first of all, I mean, how has the last couple of years been for you with the lockdowns and everything that's been going on? How have you found it all?
Well, look, we'll start on a downer. Look, it was an interesting time. I'm based in Melbourne, so obviously we were locked down for quite a while, and then kind of went into lockdown, out of lockdown, into lockdown, out of lockdown. I'm very fortunate. I've not caught COVID. My partner hasn't caught COVID. A fair few people now that I know, particularly with this Omicron variant, have caught it. But yeah, I don't know. It was weird. It was a really weird time. It was very unprecedented. I didn't expect to experience anything like this in my lifetime. Look, mental health wise, I think it was important just to stay positive in terms of what was going on globally. But yeah, I don't know. It was difficult. It was a unique thing. So just kind of dealt with it as it occurred, I guess. I spent a lot of time at home, played a lot of video games with my friends. That was a good way of keeping busy.
I mean, did it affect you much in terms of work? Did you have any projects you were working on that got cancelled, or were you quite lucky in that sense?
Well, work-wise for myself, because I've kind of pivoted from being in front of the camera to being more primarily behind the camera. That's what I'm really interested in, is like writing and directing and just filmmaking in general. Because I'd previously studied prior to COVID, I'd done a university degree of like a Bachelor of Film and Television production, which is, it's an arts degree basically in Australia, but it's film and TV focused basically. And so I was just making inroads into the industry. So I had quite a few jobs post uni, and then the start of 2020 hit, and then suddenly everything kind of stopped. And for the arts, it was a big blow, just in terms of everything kind of stopping. And because I was in that real entry point career-wise into that facet of the industry, it just for me was just like, okay, cool, I can do nothing now. Because I initially I was like, okay, well, I'll try and write, I'll do something positive while I'm at home. But it was I did find myself very creatively stagnant, to be honest. And I think that's just because I wasn't really experiencing much that wasn't being stuck at home. I didn't really want to write something that was, oh yes, person stuck at home experiencing isolation, because every cat out there was writing something about that. And I just felt like that's rote, it's standard. I didn't really want to dwell on that. So I just put my energy into hanging around the house, doing stuff, gardening, cleaning up my house, stuff like that. I don't know, basic life things. Work-wise, it was not really creative arts industry focused. Although I did actually, literally just as a creative exercise with some of my friends, we just started a little podcast that, like, it never went anywhere. Like, it didn't, I say it never went anywhere. We only made like 10 episodes or 11 episodes. And it was literally, we would just watch a film, and once a week we would watch a film, and all just discuss it, and then just talk about lives, talk about stories, talk about interesting things to us. And that was just something creative that gave us like an assignment essentially for each week, just something to look forward to. And so I got to edit that as well, which was fun, because that gave me a few hours of just work sitting at my computer, throwing audio together, but which I'm sure you're well aware of exactly how fun that can be. It was an interesting time. And then now work-wise, honestly, everything's opening back up here in Melbourne and in Australia generally, particularly in Melbourne because we were locked down. I've just been very busy doing a lot of video production stuff. Not as much acting stuff as previously, but it is really, that's just where I've kind of focused my energy. So yeah, that's what I'm doing.
So, for you, where did the love of acting, of, being within media, where did that come from for you? Do you remember kind of when that interest first sort of came around for you?
Yeah, so the acting, it's funny. This is the story my mother's told me, so this is the story I'm going to tell you. But basically, it all began. I was in kinder, which is like preschool, basically in Australia, and essentially, the local primary school were doing like their school play performance. And so my kinder would get to go because they were conjoined with that primary school to do a little pre-performance. And so ours was, we were all just going to be going up and singing Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. We're all going to be dressed up as stars and moons and stuff like that. And so everybody goes up, but of course we're young. It's like a bunch of 5-year-olds. So everyone going on there like Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. And me being a showboat, being so full of myself, I go up and I grab the microphone and I start belting out Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star and doing air guitar and just like owning the stage, just enjoying it. And everybody's laughing, of course, finding this hilarious of 5-year-olds doing this on stage. And of course, that's incensing me and it's making me do more and more of it. So after that, a bunch of parents said to my mum, wow, he was really confident up there. He really seemed to enjoy it. You should ask him if he's interested in performing arts. And so mum asks me if I am interested. And I'm like, yeah, that was fun. Like I was making people laugh. Everybody was enjoying it. That was a lot of fun. So then I, from there, just started auditioning. I went and did a random talent scout thing for children and immediately booked a job from that thing. And it was an HBA ad and I got to ride a scooter down a hill and which is like an insurance ad, by the way, in Australia. I should provide some level of context, I realize. But yeah, riding a scooter down a hill and I get to turn the hill and then my dad has to keep going down the hill and hit his head on a sign. It's like a simple ad, but it was a lot of fun. It was a day's work and I really enjoyed it. And it was catered. And I said to my mum, the food was great. I'm paid to be here. This is amazing. I want to keep doing this. So then I from then just kept auditioning. And I mean, like for every job I booked, like there's, I don't know, half a dozen jobs that I actually booked. Like there was 100 auditions I didn't book. So like, yeah, from then it was like just a lot of kind of the trials and tribulations of being an actor, and particularly a child actor is, getting driven around, luckily by my parents who are very supportive to auditions. And then I booked Neighbours and then, I was there for a while.
I mean, I was going to say, Neighbours was obviously 2008 was when you first appeared on that show. I mean, obviously you were very young at the time. So what was it like, joining a well-established show like Neighbours? Were you aware, were you interested? Were you a fan of the show before you joined? What was that like?
So in Australia, Neighbours broadcasts like immediately, at the time at least, it was broadcasting immediately after The Simpsons on the same channel, on Channel 10 at the time. And so for me, I would watch The Simpsons and then I would watch Neighbours. So like it was on and I wasn't always necessarily really aware of what I was watching and like I wouldn't watch it religiously or anything like that, but I knew what Neighbours was and I knew who Toadie was and I knew all this. And so when I went into the audition, they actually did... because initially it was just like a meeting and there was a basic script, but then they're like, okay, now we're just going to improv. And then I started improving random stuff about Toadie having like a heart condition or something like that, which had been something that I'd seen on the show, I think. And he'd like tried to adopt an East Timorese child or something around that time. And I just like had remembered it in the audition. So I just threw that out there. So like, yeah, I knew the show. I mean, I wasn't really well versed in just how long the history of the show was. I don't think I was aware of Scott and Charlene or anything like that, but I did know what the show was. I knew Paul was a bad guy. I knew that Harold was lovely. And I knew Dr. Carl and Susan and Toadie. So like, I mean, the basics, I got the basics, but yeah. That was my perspective going into it. I mean, I was 10 also, so it's like, I
mean, what was it like when you first stepped out on the street and obviously walking around the sets? Was that strange for you, or was that, as a youngster, do you maybe not get as fazed by things like that?
I mean, being on set, I'd been on set a fair few times by that point. But I mean, it was still like just daunting and amazing, and yeah, stepping onto the set was amazing. Having the conversations I was having with the cast, even from a young age, was just like, wow, this is real. This is real deal. And I mean, initially my role was just a guest role. It was just a 3-month stint was what was planned, just to see how it went. And then from there, I signed another 3-month contract. And then from there, I think I signed a 6-month contract. And then from then it was like, okay, now you're actually becoming a full-time cast member. So even just for that initial year, I was just like, I don't know where this is going, but this is a lot of fun. Yeah, it was very, I loved it. I mean, it was a lot of fun. It's a very rare experience to get to be on television, even rarer when you're a child, and even rarer still to be consistently working on television as a child. Like it's one of those really rare environments where the work doesn't stop. So it's very consistent. So yeah, I really did grow up there. Yeah, it was great. Loved it.
And I mean, working with the likes of, you say, Ryan Moloney, who of course, plays Toadie. Carla Bonner was obviously a big part when you first joined, who of course played Steph. Working with these legends, I mean, these iconic people, I imagine you learn a lot from them, not just necessarily acting, but more like the technical side of being on a TV show. So, I mean, what was it like, working with these legends and kind of being, I imagine, being like a sponge and taking all this information in?
Yeah, well, that was essentially what I was doing, was just trying to absorb as much as I could. Really, I mean, Ryan was fantastic. He was, so good with me. Very patient with me, because I was a rambunctious little 10-year-old, and I'm sure I was very annoying. He was fantastic. Like, he's a really lovely dude. And Carla as well was great. And she was there for a few years before she left, and then came back, I think, and then. Yeah, I think so. I don't know if I was there when she came back. Maybe I was. I don't remember. That's the thing as well. I do follow the Neighbours Instagrams and all that, so I do I see characters coming in and out, and I'm like, was I there for that? Did I see that? I don't know. But she was great, and definitely. Just in regards to, being taught like what to do, because it is such a unique beast. They do shoot a lot of television in a very short amount of time. So just being aware of the time constraint, and being aware of professionalism, and being aware of knowing your lines, hitting your marks, listening to the director. Good actor always listens. That was one of the first things that was told to me by the producer at the time when I first came in. Peter Dodds was his name, who he ended up being a lecturer at my uni. And so I ended up having a good relationship with him later down the line. But he was the producer when he was there, and he sat me down, literally said, good actor always listens. Good actor always listens. That is the most important thing I will tell you today. He told me other stuff. I don't remember it, but I remember that. And so, irony. But it was, I learned a lot, basically. In summation, I learned a lot. Yes.
Now, one of the, two of the people that obviously joined the show later on and became big parts of Callum's life were, of course, Sonya and Jade. Eve Morey, who I had the pleasure of meeting one time when she was in London. She is amazing. What was it like working with those two? Because they seem like a lot of fun, but also the storylines that you were getting with them were so good. What was that like?
Yeah. Well, so the Sonya being Callum's mother, saga. That was great. That was very interesting. It was a very interesting story. Eve, I love Eve. She's fantastic. She's one of my favorite people in the world. We still regularly keep in contact. I love her. She's fantastic. I'll say that again and again. Like, she's just a lovely person. And Gemma as well is just a beautiful person as well. Like, that is the great thing about the cast of Neighbours. It's like every single person has just been a beautiful person. I think you need to be when you're surrounded by people all day, every day, consistently. The vetting process for casting is you better be good, because we're going to be in close quarters for a long time. That was a really interesting storyline, just in terms of, because initially when Eve was hired, she didn't know that she was going to be Callum's mother, because that wasn't something that initially had been written. That was later down the line, the producers or the writers or somebody pulled that out of the hat and said, actually, all this time, the reason Sonya has come about is because she's Callum's secret druggy mother. And then lo and behold, it occurred. And it was a lot of fun.
I mean, how far in advance were you aware of that? Was that something that you were told quite early on, or did you only find out later, sort of as the storyline was progressing?
Well, so they would give us story briefs. I want to say once a year or it was like once a year, they'd be like, okay, grand scheme, this, that, characters, essence, vibe. And then kind of, I think every 3 months we kind of get a vague kind of, okay, and then for this quarter, it's a bit of this, a bit of that. But I look, I gotta be honest, I don't really remember being told. I do just remember it being like, oh, that's what's happening now. Okay. It's funny. Actually, now that I'm saying it, I actually feel like I had a joke conversation with Eve or Ryan. I was with somebody. Remember, I was very young when this is happening. I'm literally remembering this as I'm saying it. But I'm pretty sure I literally jokingly said, "Oh, Sonya will be Callum's like druggy mother or something like that," because we knew that she was had been to AA. Wow, I've just remembered that as I'm telling it. This is
feel
the
like
thing.
we're
I don't
giving you
really tell
therapy.
these stories to people. You are. This is a free therapy session for me. This is great. Televised onto YouTube. Yeah. So we didn't really know, and then we knew. But yeah, I do remember joking about that. Actually, there you go. Yeah. Anyway, sorry, I just had a little insular moment. Yeah.
I mean, of course, the other young actress we have to talk about is, of course, Scala, who I imagine was like a little sister in real life for you. I mean, playing the lovely Nell. What was it like working with her? Because she seemed like such a talent.
Yeah, I mean, she was wonderful. Like from day dot, basically, and she'd be how old now? Like 10? She might be 10. Oh, I'm getting old. She was fantastic. Like very responsive. Wouldn't cry a lot. You know, with babies, it's kind of you don't know what's going to happen, and that's why frequently shows will get like twins in, just because it's a little bit simpler to actually sub one out if one's having a bit of a tantrum or a moment, and the other one's asleep maybe, and you swap them out. But yeah, she's always been just really switched on and very, yeah, she'd be 10. Okay, so she's like the age I was when I started. Yeah, she was lovely. Yeah.
I remember when I interviewed Eve, I remember her saying that she would be devastated if Scarlett didn't want to play Nell anymore because she's so good at it. The irony is, of course, now obviously Eve's not on the show, but Scarlett still is. I mean, we must also talk about that storyline. I mean, you obviously went back for Sonia's death. What was that like to film? Because I imagine that must have been hard.
Yeah, so it was weird. It was actually a very weird experience for me because I briefly dipped in, I want to say the start of 2018, for when Sonya had her relapse and was living in a trailer. But this was like very brief. Like I dipped in for like a week or so and then left. And then hadn't really been doing much acting. That was in the midst of doing uni, so I really was focused on behind the scenes stuff. So it was a strange environment to go back into. Lots of new faces, obviously, but a lot of the old faces as well, on cast and crew. And yeah, sets changing, things just being slightly different. It was just a bit odd. But then I really did just kind of slip back into it. And I was like, oh, yes, okay, this is what it is to be on this show. I know how to get myself into the mindset of Callum. Then in terms of the storyline, I mean, it was really brutal. Like it was really sad. It was really, quite emotionally difficult. Because like personally, on a personal level, my mother has had cancer a few times. So I did find it quite affecting on that just personal level. I mean, touch wood, she's sorry, I don't want to mess with the mic, but she's fine at the moment. But while I'd previously been on the show, she'd gone through cancer treatment. And yeah, is now in remission, obviously. But I just found it very it affected me a lot on that level. Simultaneously, one of my best friends from high school, his mother had actually passed away from lung cancer when we were meant to be, I think it was like a week before the funeral scenes were to be filmed. And so it actually weirdly, it drew me out of the reality of being in Neighbours, because I just felt like on a personal level, like just as somebody who like watches performance directing and stuff like that, I think of my performance and I go, yeah, I really wasn't in it, because I really was just thinking like, oh, this is kind of all fake. It's not real. Like, it's not like the real anguish that my friend is actually feeling, which like is terrible. And I reflect on that and I'm like, oh, that could have been better if I'd really put more effort into that. But I just mentally just couldn't get myself into that place, I guess. But then, I mean, in terms of like a storyline, yeah, it was really important to highlight the awareness of like ovarian cancer if you're detecting it early, there are things that you can do about it. It's a serious thing. Early detection's key. And I mean, obviously Sonya had also been poisoned by a nanny and there had been all kinds of other stuff in that. But yeah, I think in terms of Eve leaving and it being very kind of like final and that's it, I was very grateful to be allowed the opportunity to actually return to the show and do that and be there. And I mean, in terms of their final episode, the Sonya and Toadie episode, was beautiful. And I was lucky enough to be a part of that process as well, filming that, even just for a little bit down on the beach. But yeah, watching that, I did find it really powerful because obviously it is just the two of them. It's essentially just a short film, basically, the whole episode. Really loved it. Yeah.
And that's the other great thing about soaps in general, is that you can get some amazing performances, sort of, I would say, Hollywood standards on shows like Neighbours. And I mean, both Eve and Ryan were, if I'm not mistaken, were nominated for a Logie Award, which is a big television award over in Australia.
I believe they were, yeah. And I mean, it really was, like, for me personally, it was and I mean, I'm biased obviously because I played my parents on this, but that's my favorite episode of Neighbours that's ever aired, probably will ever air. Like that is the one, because it is so intimate and so personal. And like, they've done some interesting things obviously previously, like the real time episode where it was like Brennan trying to run to the witness protection and trying to get Kate and Sophie and all that. And that is cool conceptually. But yeah, for me, that's just the best episode, I think. Yeah. So their performances were just great. And I think as well, because obviously they'd been performing together for 10 years at that point, I would say. So, or 9 years, whatever it was. I don't quite remember. 9 years, let's call it 9 years. And yeah, that just it's the culmination of that relationship, professionally, for the actors, but also in terms of as characters. I don't know, it's heartbreaking, And I mean, I really enjoyed it.
I was going to say, it was an amazing. I remember at the time, and it was just so gripping. And I mean, to be fair, I've always been a fan of the show, but it was one of those time periods where everyone was so sad to see her go, because she'd been on the show for about, like you say, 10 years, and people loved her character. And I think it was the first time in a while that they had killed off someone who had been on for so long and had been so loved. So, I mean, I personally was devastated when we heard the news that she was leaving the show, but at the same time loved the episodes because they were done so well.
It's that double-edged sword, I guess, because, in a soapy land, nothing ever changes, but everything gradually changes and characters shift in and out. But you have the old favorites. You have your Paul and your Susan and Carl and your Toadie and Sonya. And then it is just kind of like, well, let's create something that is severe, that will grip the audience and that they don't expect. And it is that, and that it is like, oh, it's not going to work out. It's like real life. It doesn't always work out, unfortunately. It is what it is. I found it really beautiful, but hard to watch.
I mean, obviously, over the years, you've got to work with some amazing actors, people that have gone on to great things. I mean, the one that always sticks to my mind is, of course, Margot Robbie. Exactly.
Yeah.
But obviously, others include, the likes of Ashley Brewer, who's obviously gone on to great things. So many people to name. I mean, has there been a character that has been a favourite of yours that you've obviously interacted with over the years, and people that you've worked with over the years that you just loved?
I mean, what a loaded question. These are all my friends. Look, I mean, that's tricky, because I've worked with some really fantastic, talented people. I mean, Callum Mackenzie, who played Bailey Turner, is a great friend of mine. We became thick as thieves the moment we met each other, basically, and we've remained very close friends. Kaya Jones, obviously, is top tier, one of my best friends. She's like my sister, essentially, because again, we've been friends literally since 2009, I think, was when she joined the show. Who else? Coco Cherian, who played Rani as well, is somebody who I became really good friends with. And then, I mean, in terms of everybody, there's so many people. Like, it's tricky for me to say, these people definitively, because it's like, I've got Eve, I've got Ryan, I've got even people I don't necessarily like frequently chat with or see. Anytime I bump into people, I went into the city in Melbourne just one day. I just went in and I bumped into Chris Milligan and Richie Morris and Benny and both Bens. It was both Bens. It was Ben Hall and Ben Turtland, I think. And like, I know Chris because he was on the show back way back, because Kyle's been there for a while. But like, I didn't really know the other boys. I'd kind of briefly had interactions with them. I think only with Ben Hall when I'd come into the show for Sonya's death. But immediately it was just like that camaraderie of, we're all the blokes of Neighbours. Like it's just, I don't know. It's that mateship, I get, and mateship, rather, of us just all, being there. So I don't know. It's hard to pick people. But I mean, look, when you talk about Margot, it's like, oh yes, it's amazing. She's done so many great things, and she's a fantastic person, and that's a testament to her personality and her drive. Really, is why she's kicking ass in Hollywood, because that's what people with that mindset do. And it's all power to her, I mean, being on the show with her as well, it's funny because I look back and I'm just like, wow, it's like I worked with this person who's been directed by Scorsese and all these other fantastic people, and has worked with all these fantastic people, and is producing amazing content now as well. And it's like, wow. And in that moment, it's like, oh, and what are we doing? It's like dumb dances with rubber gloves or something, like just silly stuff. Because that's the thing as well. Being Callum, like the benefit of being Callum was that he's a character who essentially was comic relief for a majority of my run there. Like beyond the seriousness of Sonya being Callum's mother, like it was rare for me to really have any kind of serious storylines, and ultimately I did just get to be comic relief, which I always found great. That was something I loved. So yeah, I don't know, lots of silly stuff. I did lots of silly stuff on the show. I look at I have like old photos of all the different costumes I would wear. I was dressed up as a big galah once because Sonya was afraid of birds. I dressed up as a giant squid once for a costume party. It's like the lawman and Babyface Jones wrestling costumes. Like there's just ridiculous. It was fun. It was just a fun place to be, particularly as a child. Like, yeah.
I mean, the other thing we obviously must mention was one of the big stunts that happened during your time on the show was, of course, the wedding, when it didn't quite go to plan. Everything went, when you do a big sort of, or have big stunts like that happening, what's that like? What's the atmosphere like on set? What was that like for you guys?
I mean, so obviously there's pyrotechnics. So like that's being filmed. We're not around when that's happening. We're away from that for safety. But there was like, people falling over and drama and excitement, and it's a lot of fun. It was a really hot day as well, though, and I was wearing a suit. I think it was like a 3-piece suit. So I actually ended up getting like a heat-related nosebleed on the day, and it's just being like, oh no, I'm bleeding everywhere. This is serious. I don't want to get it on my white shirt. No, but like, yeah, I mean, it was pretty high-octane drama, but yeah, it was good. And then Toadie and Sonya ended up getting remarried at a second wedding anyway, not too long after, I think. Yeah, it was good. It's fun. Lots of, I don't know, that's the thing. It's an environment because it's a soap. I mean, soaps do have like moments of levity and then these serious dramatic moments of like a bushfire or a storm or a tornado. I think there was a tornado that went through Erinsborough at one point. Like just anything and everything, because why not? Because why not is
exactly
the best approach to script writing, honestly. Because why not is amazing. Let that happen.
Now, I just wanted to briefly, obviously, mention the news that we've heard, around the world recently of the news that it's ending. Obviously, devastating. No one wanted to see this day come along. But for you, what do you think of it coming to an end? And would you like to go back to say goodbye to the show?
So, I mean, going back, maybe, I don't know. That's up to them. Like, if they write that, sure, I would definitely go. It's like, I love it there. I mean, in terms of it ending, it's really sad. I think the saddest thing is that because Neighbours has been an opportunity for so many people, like a launch pad for creatives, not only in front of the camera, but behind the camera as well. So many careers have been built off working there, having some level of tenure there. And I do feel really sorry for all the people who have actually lost their jobs like this, because I mean, it's a full-time job working there, and this is over 100 people work there. Like it's a lot of people who now sadly are going to be unemployed. And I mean, obviously within the industry, it's very rare, as I said earlier, to actually be consistently working anywhere. Because I mean, there really aren't TV shows that are just consistently year round churning out episodes. So, I mean, obviously everybody that's working there has been very fortunate in terms of having consistent work, but I think that makes it all the sadder because, I mean, I personally know a lot of people who are working there who it has been the steady paycheck for their lives in terms of working within the industry. So, yeah, I don't know. And I feel like as well, for a lot of the people who have been there for a long time, they're entering an industry now that has changed in one way or another. Because I mean, as much as Neighbours has kind of gradually been evolving with the times, it is still it's a multi-cam soap opera shot in a studio, so there are like certain limitations. But I mean, I know that recently actually they have been kind of revamping the way they've shot the show, doing a lot more stuff on location, which is great. I know they used to do a lot of location stuff when I was there as a child, and then kind of it petered off because it's all financial. Ultimately, it's all financial. So what are you going to do if Channel 5 aren't making money making the show? It makes sense for them financially to go, cool, we're not going to produce it anymore. I mean, if it's running on a £5 million loss or something like that was what I read, it's like that's a lot of money. And if advertisers aren't going to pay that for them, it's fair enough. It sucks. That's fair enough. I mean, it's a tricky thing because I know that financially it's 6 episodes a week essentially being shot there. So that's a lot of it's essentially a feature film being shot every week for most of the weeks of the year by one program. And well, 2 crews, I guess, because we have location and studio, but 1 set of cast. And yeah, so it's a lot, but it's really sad. I mean, you think of all the great people that have come out of Neighbours. You know, you're talking about Margot or like Guy Pearce or like Kylie Minogue, you know, obviously. I know you guys love Kylie over there, but it's just sad, really. It's the end of an era, I guess. It's the end of an institution. It's the end of an era. It's the end of, I guess, TV in that format, really. I mean, I know that Home and Away is the only other Australian show that's still like operates in that way as a soap opera in Australia. But yeah, it seems the soapies are becoming few and far between, which I mean is a shame, but I guess also as content's leading more towards streaming, you know, and having stuff on demand, people aren't necessarily going, oh, well, it's 6 o'clock, I'm going to watch my Neighbours now because that's what's on, as opposed to the plethora of any number of fantastic shows that are on any number of streaming services at the touch of your fingers. You can watch whatever you want when it's on, and you're not beholden to going, oh, well, I have to watch it at 6 o'clock, or I think there's a 1 o'clock session in Neighbours, isn't it? There's 2 a day, isn't it?
Yeah, so we have 1:45 and it's now 6 o'clock. Yeah, so
now 6 o'clock. There we go. Yeah. Are they just bumping the time slots slowly just to push it off? And no, we didn't cancel it, we swear. I'm on to you, Channel 5. What are you going to say? But like, yeah, it's sad. But I mean, I hope that, you know, I've seen hashtags celebrating Neighbours, and I mean, I'm posted about it. I'm not very vocal on social media. I don't care about it. Like it's not real, I guess. I know it's the way of the future, and I know it's the remote control of the future and the access point to society and everything. I don't care. It's not real. I haven't posted about it, but I mean, it is sad. And I have seen, like, anyway, the point of what I was saying, I have seen like celebrating Neighbours, and that is what these last couple of months is just going to be about, I would assume, is the idea of creating the best possible outcome for viewers that's going to be satisfying as a conclusion, because I think that's what needs to be written. I mean, obviously, if they had for a month hanging over their heads the idea of we need to find a new distributor or a new channel to co-finance, there was that maybe, but I think at this point they've just got to close that door. So it's really sad, I guess. The point of what I was trying to say, it was really sad. Feel free to cut out that soundbite and just have me answering. It's sad. Yeah.
I mean, I think the thing that I'm looking forward to, and I never thought I'd say that about Neighbours ending, but the thing I am looking forward to is to see how they finish it. Because I mean, hearing from what, you know, Jason's been saying, the executive producer, it sounds very much like he doesn't want any deaths. He's not going to do he's not going to blow up the street or anything. It is purely going to be a celebration and a happy ending, which I think we need. But also
Bouncer's dream. That's it.
Yeah,
Bouncer
exactly.
wakes up at the end. Yeah.
But we've heard that obviously, you know, a couple of people are coming back. So far, we know that Harold is coming back. I think a few other names have been mentioned. But for you, is there a character you would love to see go back for the end? And will you be tuning in?
I mean, Harold's already going back. That probably would have been the big one that I was like, all right, you got to get Harold back. Sure.
I mean, I hope they get Lou back. Lou would be the other one I'd love to see back.
Yeah, Harold and Lou together would be good. Even just for one scene, I think would be really good. It's hard to pick like, who's an iconic character that should come back, because it has to actually serve the story. Because I think like as amazing as being like, oh, Scott and Charlene have returned and they're singing that Angry Anderson song that I can't think of the name of off the top of my head. Like that'd be cool. But why are they doing that? Like, it's, if you can justify it, amazing. And I mean, if Kylie Minogue says yes, also amazing, do it, of course. But yeah, I think just in terms of the reality of the show, I don't know, because it entirely depends on how they end things as well. I mean, if they want it to be real and be a celebration and not be another tornado hurtling through Erinsborough and tearing the houses down. And I mean, I don't know. Who knows? I don't know how they end it. They should end it. It should just be like cricket on the court, people playing cricket. It's just one episode, in the same way that like the Toadie and Sonya episode was a whole episode. It should be a whole week. Why not? Do it for all week. And what it is, it's just the street party. And every episode is a different house. Why not? Well, there's 6 houses. Maybe that wouldn't work. But like, you get the idea. Like, just having it be that, having it be a little focused story for each family or unit or whatever. And then all kind of coming together and playing cricket or kicking a footy. I think cricket's better. It's more of a team game, I think, for that purpose, cinematically. But yeah, keeping it simple, like, and just letting it play out, and then it's done. I guess.
That'd
I don't
be amazing.
know.
I completely agree. I think that'd be fantastic.
I feel like that's better and less cynical than like, oh, the bulldozers come through and a new developer has come in and Paul tries to fight and pay for the street, but he gets outbid and the houses get demolished. Like, it's just, yeah, I don't know. You know, it is what it is. It's sad and it's bittersweet. But I hope, and I'm sure they will write the best possible outcome. I mean, Jason's a super fan of the show as well. So like that, I feel like his mindset is like, make it as satisfying as possible for everyone. And if that's bringing in a bunch of old people, amazing. If that's just serving the characters that are on the show, amazing. It's, yeah, it could go anyway. So I don't know. Because I mean, I don't know. We'll find out. We'll watch. We'll find out. I will watch it. I mean, it's the end of the show, so I will watch it. But yeah, I don't know.
Now, I just want to say it's been a pleasure talking to you. But before we go, I just wanted to ask if you had any messages for anyone who's currently in hospital at the moment. Anything you'd like to say at all to them?
Yes. Look, sorry, let me conduct my thoughts so that I say something poignant and not just off the top of my head. You're obviously going through something hard at the moment if you're in hospital. And so I just want you to know that I'm thinking of you, and just keep doing what you're doing and do whatever you can to be as well as you can, I guess. It's the only thing, like, it's really hard to say, to people in hospital, what to say, because there's a plethora of positions that everybody's in. But yeah, all you can do is just keep moving forward, I guess. So good luck as well. Good luck. Yeah.
No, I just want to say, Morgan, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. Thank you for giving up your time. Of
That's
course,
all right.
Keep safe. And yeah, you're welcome back in the future one day. Thank you.
Excellent. Yeah, sorry, I'm sure I talked your ear off. I don't know how long this has gone for, but yeah, I've had a pleasure talking.